Do American workers look at countries with worker rights? Hi all. As a union type of guy, the first I'm horrified with posts often from American workers on their conditions and way they get treated. It made me wonder, do American workers ever look at countries with worker rights, paid holidays, sick leave etc.? If they do, what stops them from trying to get these basic conditions? Lastly, this is not an America bashing post, more trying to understand the culture of work. The fact access to healthcare for them and their family is tied to their employment. And in most states they can be fired for pretty much anything or nothing at any given time. The vast majority of American workers have been propagandized into finding European countries with generous labor rights to be tantamount to communism. They worship billionaire oligarchs and continue to struggle alone with the grind set mentality. Any standing up to the tyrannical owners of capital is seen as devolving into socialist hell. Look at Cuba, look at Venezuela is their mantra. Never look how much happier people in Europe are. Americans have a weird attitude that many of them are just temporarily embarrassed millionaires. The concept is that right now they are poor. But watch out, someday they will be the CEO and they wouldn't want to have to abide by any rules on how they rule over their little work kingdom. I didn't think it was that prevalent until I had a long conversation in an art class at a community college with a middle-aged woman who was just so certain she would run a company someday. No idea what company, what it would do or how she would get there. Just that she would. It really blew my mind at the time. The ones that look at it can't afford to leave. The ones that can afford to leave don't look at it since they live under much better conditions. Unions are starting to make a little headway here. But there's a sizable chunk of the country that prides itself on its work ethic. Work ethic, in this case, means that they see their exploitation as proof that they're inherently better people than others. It's quite difficult to get laws changed to benefit workers in places where this attitude is prevalent. The problem is that your political system is completely rigged. The Dems are not even really a left party, even less socialists lol. And when they win some election they lose another which prevent them from actually governing. The GOP perfectly mastered the art of gerrymandering and will haver full powers even if supported by a minority of the pop. You're basically fucked. Americans are generally poorly educated and heavily propagandized. Yes, but then they remember that factory owners hired gunmen to shoot strikers without penalty. We look with envy, knowing in an alternate timeline we could have had it. There is a very strong belief in individualism here. I really don't think that can be underestimated. It comes through in many different ways. Not the least of which is that a lot of people think they can do better by themselves than all the other losers. Hey, I don't want to pay for healthcare. Because I don't need it. I'm healthy as a horse. Unlike others. I am a harder, smarter, faster worker than the other chuckleheads. So I don't need a union. And for win that gamble, too many, though, lose. But then blame those very programs that could help them if they were expanded. And those who qualify for them. Our politicians are beholden to money. Businesses are basically unlimited in political donations since Citizens United. It's not in business interest to give those workers protections. So politicians will do nothing to make that happen. The short answer is naked and unabashed corruption. There is a lot of propaganda here. I think the average person would be completely shocked if they talked to someone who worked in, say, Germany. I've literally heard locals explaining how all the European countries are failed states. And talk about it like it's the Middle East. If average people knew, I bet there would be a lot of mass strikes and change demanded. Thus the reason for the propaganda. America is better than all the other countries. Even the countries that are better than us. Especially the countries that are better than us. Not as for far too many Americans. Countries with worker rights that's GIF Giphy QZESVP5FB Wiki BWPXL downsized. Something you must understand about Americans: we have been told since birth that America is the best country. So good that people immigrate here from the rest of the world for the marvelous opportunities here that are sadly lacking elsewhere. We have no idea about workers' rights in other countries. A few of us can point and say, look over there, they have unions and healthcare and education. So why can't we? We are branded freedom-hating socialists. I would love nothing more than laws requiring all jobs cover your most basic needs and provide a livable wage. Unfortunately, a lot of people think that's for sissies or some stupid line of thought. Shish, Americans don't know there are other countries. It's designed so we can't escape. Healthcare is tied to employment. We're paid crumbs and work to the bone to make sure we don't have the money or energy to either protest effectively or work on moving out. Takes thousands and thousands of dollars and years of searching and effort to find a way out. And even though the $3,000 citizenship renouncing fee is back down to $400, it's still too much for some people, meaning they still have to pay taxes to both countries until they can pay that. It's all built intentionally to keep 95 of us stuck here to our detriment. Many Americans are easily brainwashed into voting against their own interests. It has been drilled into the country that socialism and communism and anything similar are evil. America's whole political system is deliberately anti-majoritarian. A very small number of idiots who want to be exploited and treated like shit on the hopes that one day they'll be the exploiter. And a handful of billionaires have basically gridlocked our government for decades. No matter how much we want better conditions and more rights, and even elect people trying to get those things for us, literally a single asshole in the Senate or House can shut the whole shop down. To do so would mean American capitalism and exceptionalism failed and the socialists communists. One hint of I've had legitimate arguments with people who lean hard right politically but are protected by their trade unions and completely incapable of acknowledging unions are a result of successful socialist policy. The success of the individual above all else is so heavily worshipped in everything we see and are taught that the concept of uniting to better conditions for the people next to us seems foreign and scary. We look across the pond, see the cost of moving and your far shittier immigration laws, then resign to staying here and working until we die. Say what y'all will about Europe, but they make it extremely difficult to move there or obtain citizenships. Especially if you're disabled in any way. Also, like no countries want Americans. So either way we're stuck in this shithole. I work for a Canadian company in the US and I'm often finding myself wanting to move there. But the GTA is more expensive than my current area. Chicago suburb. The housing is bananas. And the public transit sucks. I'd also have to pay Canadian taxes and US taxed anyways. Unless I renounced my citizenship. Sounds like a lot of stress. Especially with my family in the US. To go through. I do. And I vote for any representative who says they support worker rights. We elect them. Nothing happens. Well, try again in 4 years. Yes. Near daily. Many Americans have been taught about false downsides to worker protections and wholeheartedly believe in them. Most people don't know. It's not like Fox News or the rest of corporate media talks about this kind of stuff. My parents are in their early 60s and were surprised when I told them other countries have universal healthcare. It's just something they don't think about. Hey, what country are you in, op? I'll start now, smiling face with tear.